It's each book has become a little bit easier because I discovered that what I want this series to be is exploring kind of human rights issues. And so each book in some way is doing that. And so now I'm researching big things that happened in Australia so that every year there is a series that is about that. So I'm actually working on book 5 right now, and it's set in a detention centre. So it's about the asylum seekers in the year 2000.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Unfiltered Voices, the podcast that is all about busting the myth that self-published is second-rate. I'm Kellie Nissen. I'm an author coach and a self-published author, and I'll be talking to authors, illustrators, and other self-published industry professionals about their choices, their journeys, and everything in between. So stick around. Amra Pajalic, welcome to Unfiltered Voices.
Much for having me, Kellie.
It's been a little while we've been waiting to do this, so it's great to have you on. So Amra Pajalic is a Bosnian-Australian author, publisher, and also a relentless advocate for diverse voices in indie publishing. Through her imprint, Pishkin Press, she champions stories that sit at the crossroads of memory, identity, and justice, including her Seka Torlak History Mystery series, which confronts the legacy of the Bosnian genocide through a fierce, truth-seeking protagonist. Amra draws on her migrant upbringing and decades of navigating both traditional and self-publishing to teach writers how to take creative control, build sustainable author careers, and make space for the stories that are too often sidelined. On her podcast, Amra's Armchair Anecdotes, I love that name, she cuts through the noise with practical, sometimes blunt honesty about the realities of self-publishing. From production pitfalls to crowdfunding wins. I am having so much fun with this today, all while empowering writers to claim their voice and own their platform. So welcome again, Amra. Let's get started with these questions. Just so everybody knows, Amra and I have actually been talking offline for about half an hour.
Because we're both teachers and we don't shut up.
Exactly. So there's something else to know about us. Anyway, Amra, so you talk about telling stories with bite, backbone, and Balkan fire. Love the alliteration. Can you tell us a little bit more about your series?
So I started the Seka Torlak series accidentally, as we all do as writers. I started a PhD and was working on this mystery book and started writing about an investigative journalist who discovered a cold case in a country town. And I was trying to make the protagonist Anglo. At this point, I'd written my memoir and my young adult novels from a Bosnian perspective. And I was like, I'm going to try something different and new. And it wasn't quite working for me. This character felt a bit blank. And my husband, who ends up being, someone who can give really good advice, he's like, why? There are all these Anglo writers who are writing Anglo characters. You need to write what you know and add something that is not out there already. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to make her Bosnian. I'm going to make her a survivor of the war. I will make her that she is from a town called Srebrenica, which was under siege for 3 years, which ended in a genocide, which was the largest genocide on European soil since World War II. 8,372 men and boys died and were buried in mass graves. And so I started writing this backstory for her because this was going to be instrumental to her uncovering this cold case, and kept writing and writing. And Patty O'Reilly, who herself is an award-winning author and was my supervisor, I was having a meeting and I was like, this is supposed to be just a few flashbacks. And I'm like 30,000 words in and I don't know what to do. And she said, this is the novel. this is your novel. And I went, oh, okay. And so I ended up finishing my PhD and writing actually the first three books in the series. And then having to make all this bonus content from the first book because that one is the longest, it's 80,000 words. Um, and so it kind of developed into this story of this character who, because of where she comes from, she's very much, concerned with justice and concerned with trying to even the scales. And it's kind of given me this opportunity to look at themes that I really want to explore, to put forward the Bosnian perspective, especially with this first book and the history of the Bosnian War, and also for me to really kind of investigate my heritage and culture. So, because I wrote a book of essays where I wanted to put all the research that was the backstory of that book into a book of essays. So it's kind of taken over my life now.
Yes, it certainly sounds like it there.
Mm,
So you obviously, I love what your husband said about writing what you know. I mean, that's
mm,
advice that we all hear multiple times.
yes,
Write what you know, write what you know. But he actually really hit the nail on the head with that.
you
It's like,
did. You
write
did.
characters that you know and feelings and expression. So you've obviously drawn on a lot of your knowledge and a lot of your research, obviously, as well, and your own experiences in your writing, and you use those then to inspire you or to fall into the story as you did with this one. But what's the most unexpected source of inspiration that you've come across?
I think I don't know, like that first book ended up kind of being hard to think of it as a mystery novel because it became so historical based.
Mm.
And since then, it's each book has become a little bit easier because I discovered that what I want this series to be is exploring kind of human rights issues. And so each book, in some way, is doing that. And so now I'm having fun researching scandals in Australia and big things that happened in Australia so that every year there is a series that is about that. And
Mm.
so I'm actually working on book five right now, and it's set in a detention centre. So it's about the asylum seekers in the year
Okay.
2000. And so I think the sort of most unexpected thing is that this makes sense for me because, we all have our things that we are really passionate about.
Mm.
But I didn't do this like where I was like, what is it that I'm passionate about and that I want to write about? It just sort of organically evolved. And then as I started sort of conceptualizing this as a series and was like, okay, if it's starting in 1992 and that first book is finishing 1997, and then, when is it picking up? What's happening after that?
Mm.
And so, yeah, it feels like, in a sense, to be for me as a writer, I kind of have to make things bigger than me. And so by
Mm.
making it these big issues and these big things that I'm exploring, and one of the things that I'm doing is each book has bonus content where I'm writing an essay about the history of it so that people
Mm.
can read. Because I love historical fiction and even like true life. I'm like, what's real? What was made up?
Yes.
What was the inspired part? And so I'm like, if other people are like me, this will give them that opportunity. Yeah, and so it's kind of like made me open my eyes sort of a little bit more to the world
Mm.
because my love of history and my love of sort of looking at human rights and justice, it's gotten bigger and become more layered, and it's been
Mm.
each book is kind of this big exploration that I really am enjoying, where it's not just the mystery part, it's like that backdrop,
Yes. Yeah.
to it.
And I love that you just like you can just tell from the way that you're talking that you're so passionate about
Yeah.
this. And you know, I was talking to somebody else the other day, or reading an interview that they'd done. It's where if you the minute you stop loving what you're doing, that's when it becomes a job. And
Yes.
just your enjoyment of this and just I mean, I think it taps into what you do, taps into your love of research and finding, digging into the why of different things. But I think too that with your bonus content, and writing that essay, so tapping into the more academic side of things as well, you're just broadening your audience there. So you've got people who just want to read the story and follow the characters, other people that are interested in the historical part of the historical fiction, and then the people who actually want that academic background as well. And I think for all authors, but I think particularly for indie authors, for self-published authors, having that a little bit more of a diverse audience is possibly really important too, that you're going to tap into multiple markets there as well.
It feels so good because I'm like, I didn't think about any of this.
No, what you need to say is
I'm just
deliberate.
Following my muse and my passion. I know that this is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to think about our audience and think about, but I kind of came to it as thinking about me, thinking about myself as my ideal audience and what is it that I like and what is it that I really want. And fingers crossed that will, connect with other people where there's other people like me who are like wanting to find out all of those parts of it too.
Yeah. And if you love something, you're not going to be the only person in the world who does.
No.
Right? So
and this is the joy of the indie world also. Like we have this freedom to decide, to, explore and to think big picture and to really take ownership and think about our books as intellectual property and all of the ways that we can exploit them. And that is the best fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So that actually leads into my next question that I had for you is why self-publishing? And you've partly answered that as well. Now, you were saying earlier that you have been traditionally published, but you've moved more into indie publishing, obviously because you love it, but it's hard work as well.
It is, but so is traditionally publishing. Like traditionally like I always wanted to be a writer. I, built my literary chops, built my publication history, got an agent. I had my agent submit my debut novel. I had 2 offers. I won a prize. I got grants, all of that stuff that is supposed to be. I actually also edited an anthology called Growing Up Muslim in Australia, which is still being used in schools, and interestingly is probably the most highest earning traditionally published thing I did.
Because education market.
That's right.
Education market. Yeah.
And and had that joy of being an editor, a co-editor, which is a whole new skill that has really served me so well as a writer. And there is, like, when you're traditionally published, everyone does things for you, but they also only do things for a very short period. You are on the radar of a publisher for only a certain amount of weeks. They've got other books. Your hands are tied in terms of promotion. They have taken your copyright, so you can't exploit your copyright anymore. And then for me, I tried all these different things. I tried writing, because I originally started as a romance novelist, and I had a romance novel that then my agent submitted. So then I started writing romance novels, 1 a year. We were going with a digital first publisher, and I made peanuts. I made $10 with that book. And then when I published that myself, I made nearly $1,000. Never too late. Doesn't matter, as long as you've got the copyright, there are opportunities. And so for me, it got to the point where the traditional publishing was actually stifling my voice. It was kind of almost giving me writer's block, because it's like, is this marketable? Will they be interested in this? Which publisher might want this? Is my agent interested in this? And, even with my memoir, that's the last book that was traditionally published, it was shortlisted for a prize, National Biography Prize, and I got $2,000 for that. But my agent submitted to 5 publishers, and she was like, yeah, I'm done. And I was like, well, I'm not. And then I submitted it myself, and I got a publishing deal. And I sort of went, well, I can do this. I can do these things. Like, at this point, I'd had books published and I'd written the blurb, and pretty much the blurb as I wrote it was being used with a few tweaks. And I developed the skills. Like, it is really great working with editors, and I had that great apprenticeship. But I was collecting all of these books that weren't being picked up, and then books that I was getting the rights back to. And I was just seeing all these authors who were independently published who could do so many different things with their books, who could do the audio books, who could, publish them internationally. Because when you get published by an Australian publisher, it's only in Australia, even though they take your world rights. They don't really exploit them, but they've got them all, and nothing else is happening with them. And I started research. It took me a really long time to actually pull the trigger and to do it. And for a while there, I was still sort of looking for publishers. But then I started seeing horror stories of authors who started series, and then a traditional publisher would publish it, and then they wouldn't be able to pursue that series afterwards.
Yes. Yep.
And so as I was working on this series, I was like, I'm not taking any chances. This is going to remain my intellectual property. I'm not going to even offer it to anyone, because I didn't want to take the chance that would close doors for me. Because publishers, they are ruthless. And now that I'm doing the publishing, I'm like, yeah, it is money. You do have to invest money and time. But they're not really growing authors the way that they used to.
No,
there's a lot more cannibalizing happening.
Yeah, their marketing budget is very limited.
Tiny.
As well. And I think traditionally published authors are having to do a lot more of the legwork themselves.
Even I saw a thread in a group I'm in of traditionally published authors using their advances to get a publicist.
Oh,
I'm like, honey, if you're traditionally published, you should not be paying money. Like, I've just paid for a publicist for my first book in the series. That's okay. That's my first book in the series. It is my, investment in my business, in the bricks and mortar of what I'm doing. But to get a paltry advance, and then to, it breaks my heart a little bit.
Yeah.
That's
actually
unevenness that's happening.
I have never heard that before, but I'm not surprised either, which is
I was actually really angry and felt really like these poor emerging authors are being exploited, because if you are traditionally published, that is the publisher's responsibility. And if they need to do that, because otherwise they're not really investing in your book.
Yes, yeah, which is an interesting thing. I think too, so the next question was sort of leading on from that too a little bit, in that there is a lot out there, a lot in the indie industry that people aren't aware of. And you're not, I mean, why would you be aware of if you don't circulate in that industry, right? But it has created that stigma that, oh, you're self-published, and you're only self-published because your book wasn't good enough to get a traditional publishing contract, or whatever.
That is so incorrect.
I'm not,
as we both know, because we are in this industry, we're reading these books, we are following these authors. There are authors I am in awe of in terms of their writing, their marketing, their business acumen, who are my heroes. And I am like, they are the ones, like in the traditional publishing industry, it's 5% who are living off their writing. In the indie world, it is a much higher percentage. This is where you have the opportunity to actually earn a viable income and to live from your writing.
Yes, but knowing too that there is a certain amount of legwork that goes
it is a business.
So
you need to do the foundationals.
Going into it with your eyes open is very important. And I don't think there's any such thing as an overnight success.
No.
Mary Anastasio was saying that there's this one and done approach, like, I've done this, now I'm done, now where's the money, where are the book sales? And it's not like that, as you would well know as well. So I think it is important then for readers and critics and just publishing in general to understand that it's more than just writing the book and
Yes.
putting it out there.
Yes.
That's writing. When you actually think about the work that goes in after you have the book in your hand, writing the book is actually the easy part, I think,
Yes.
to a
Because the
certain
rest of
extent.
it, all of the marketing. So, even just this week, I started my Facebook ads again. I booked,
Yeah.
promos, written media promos. Um, there's all this constant work that you need to do that I like to keep um, pushing it along and to keep. Even today I was like, I'm getting some orders from libraries because I'm with library distributors. I'm like, okay, I actually need to create a flyer and start emailing all the libraries in Australia, which I've done before, about my newest book and about the publicity that I have garnered for that, and the fact that it is with library distributors, to get more orders, to get it in more libraries, to get more readers and eyeballs on it. And so it is a constant process of promoting, learning. Like, there are, like, even this year, one of my goals is translations. And so I'm following a lot of groups, collecting a lot of information. For me, translating is a bit more complicated because I cannot translate in any other language until I have Bosnian versions.
Yes, fair enough.
And Scribe Shadow does not do that. So I've had to find other workarounds, and I'm figuring it out. And I've got my first novel in the series in a Bosnian version. I'm just going to get it proofread. And so, like, there is all of these new opportunities, but there is work behind us. But this is what it means to be an indie author. It is that you have that one book and you have multiple ways of exploiting that intellectual property. Like my Sassy Saints series, my 3-book series, I published that in ebook, in audiobook, in dyslexic font, in large print, in hardcover.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to try all of these different versions, because as a teacher, we work with young people and, who have literacy issues. So I was like, I'm going to do all these different versions to try and support accessibility and to find it. Now it's, the translation. So it's always new things, new opportunities, new things to learn and to try out.
Yeah, which is exciting for a lot of
It
people,
is.
right? Too. It's like, if you are going into the indie, in the indie world, I think you need to have that love of learning new things and embracing the challenge that it
Yes.
brings, and also a little bit of time. I mean, you this is not your primary job, what
No,
you
I
do.
work
So this
4 days
is,
a week
yeah,
and as a teacher,
yeah,
and I have 1 day a week, one weekday to work on my writing business, but I obviously do it every single day, every
yes,
minute that I have. I'm actually, this is my 4th year that I have a writing studio where I'm an
nice,
artist in residence. And so I have a proper writing studio. So that day that I've got off, I actually go and work. And so that's been really, really valuable for me. But yeah, it is, I'm going to go again to the teacher thing. We've got the teacher brain where we need constant stimulation and we're always
yep,
learning, but also we always need to be doing something.
yes,
And
yes,
this is
that's so
where
true.
the indie thing comes in handy, because you're just always doing something. And so,
Yep,
with me, I come home, and I'm just still, doing social media, doing marketing, doing writing, doing, all these other things, because I love it. I need it, but also, like, I enjoy new challenges. But I am a bit of a mood person, and I do things as the mood
yes,
takes
yeah.
me. Yeah.
Actually, I'm just sitting here thinking about all these things that you do, having been a teacher myself and knowing how much that can suck you dry mentally and
Yes.
emotionally. But then to be coming home and be thinking about your other career as well. So you mentioned your studio, your writing studio, and instantly the little green-eyed monster came out because
I've never had it before. I feel like so
it's like,
fancy. I'm like, oh my God.
well, look at me in my writing studio. Talking